Hi everyone, welcome back to our MMAT assignment, video 3 of 6, Basic Dynamic Analysis. This assignment is done by Ian, Hansel, and myself, Matilda. So today we'll be taking a look at basic dynamic analysis from where we left off the last time on basic static analysis. So we'll be taking a look at RecShort, Process Explorer to identify it immediately, Process Monitor to see what functions are actually running, a pet DNS to see what network operations are happening, and last but not least, netcat to see what information is in the traffic. So let's get started. So I already have all of the tools started up already. Before I run the malware, I have my Process Explorer, Process Monitor, a pet DNS running up already, and my netcat hearing on port 80. I'm going to put my Process Explorer right over here so that if there's any change I can see immediately, because sometimes malwares jump around or they terminate very quickly. So let's get started. So we just look carefully at what is here right now and let's get started. Oh, wait. Before we get started, we need to actually take a RecShort. So let's take a first shot. It'll take a bit of time. Okay, the RecShort is done. Let's click on our malware and see what happens. So we have backdoor.exe, and then immediately after that we have this sysconfig32.exe. So unblock, and our backdoor is gone. Okay, I don't think that was an illusion. I think that was legitimate. Okay, so before anything, let's take a look at our process monitor to help just quickly filter out what was actually happening back then. I'm going to reset everything and I'm going to change my process name to backdoor at the sysconfig32 operation is definitely create file default and also something to do with registry because that is also default. Okay, add apply. Okay, so let's take a look at what's actually happening right over here. Gonna just drag it a bit. So this is our backdoor, which I believe has already terminated. So we can see a lot of Windows socket going on. So definitely this installation or whatever it is, because it keeps creating files, definitely needs the DLLs present. So this installation or whatever it's doing is it requires internet access. So we're moving now, I can't see. Okay. Okay, something strange just came up. This backdoor just created a file on one of the system folders of sysconfig. If I remember correctly, last time in our static analysis, this was one of the strings that we saw in the malware. So this definitely is from the malware and is definitely trying to install something. So let's continue looking down if there's anything. Seems not really alright, but nothing jarring. Let's take a look back up. So we see this as well, prefetch in our sys, I'm just going to call it system config because it sounds easier to pronounce. Yep, so knowing that, create keys looks pretty okay. But now that we know that, what was that line? Over here, pretty sure it was not there before, but let's take a look at that. My computer, gonna go into my local disk, because it was in Windows System 32, right? Okay, System 32. Something that started with, oh yeah, sysconfig. Okay, we found it. Let's take a look at when it was actually created. 8:54. It's 8:58 now, so 5 minutes ago. So okay, this is definitely installed through the malware, if anything, if there is ever a doubt. So let's look at the properties of this. We see threats. Okay. We see, let's take a look at the strings. The strings look familiar. It actually looks really familiar to the real malware string. So the hypothesis is that it has installed one of itself into the system file so that whenever it boots up, it will run. This executable file will run, because I don't think normal Microsoft files will have, you know. Okay, let's take a look at TCP connections. We have some kind of information going on. So the listening port is 0. Wait, yeah. Okay, but the local host is 6667. So let's set our netcat to 6667 instead, because I don't think netcat's gonna get anything as of now. So that was really fast. So this is definitely, I remember seeing something like nick and then user, and then there was like a lot of what do you call it, percentages, but this is probably something like that. It's probably the sync packet, because it keeps saying over here that it syncs. So yep, that's that. But if we find a string so similar, maybe it's even the same file after all. So let's run a quick hash to compare it with. So we have winmd5 over here. I have the file over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag and drop it in. And it is the exact same file. So this is definitely the same file. It's not a doubt. But if anything, let's take a look at what is actually going on in our pet DNS. Oh goodness, we have this URL that we saw the other time in static analysis coming up. Let's take a look at what this actually is. It might just be a one-way thing. So tux music. Okay, I think I got it. Because if we use the Internet Explorer in the VM, what's going to happen is that it's going to actually also affect the DNS that we are running on in the pet DNS. So that's not what we want. So this site cannot be reached. Let me just double confirm if that's the correct. Yes, that is the correct URL. So this is probably a one-way sort of a thing. Maybe this is where they collect their information, where they have this after getting all their personal information. So let's end it off with our final rig shot. I think we got a pretty good idea of what's actually happening. So probably this malware is, it actually installs a version of itself, probably runs some mutex so that it doesn't reinstall itself, and so that every time the computer boots up, or even if it shuts down and it boots up again, it's going to be running the same executable code. So it's an annoyance, and probably the people in the IRC are just selling information or something like that, just malicious attempts, or just maybe even script kiddies. So over here we have some values added. We can see configuration loader, which was actually what we kept seeing in our static analysis. So if anything, this is actually a hex value, and if you can actually decipher hex, this is actually the sysconfig.exe that we were talking about. So it's actually loaded it into its registry, into HKLM, sorry. And let's just take a look down at anything we may have missed during our analysis. So we might have missed something, but I think it looks pretty okay for an explanation. So probably it's when they download it and then it installs itself as an executable file, and then every time it reboots up, it's not going to go away, and it's slowly being a backdoor. So that IP address that we just saw probably is the one that they are listening to, or they are extracting data, or they are even sending data over to. So that's that for basic dynamic analysis.